Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, this video is probably going to be the most removed from all the other thingies, because I decided I was going to jump on a trend at the last second, because this trend is literally about to be over, so might as well talk about this guy while he still has some sort of relevancy. I don't know if he's going to be like literally forever gone in the future, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but I hopefully will make myself the last video about this topic, I guess. I mean, you don't end with your best foot, you start with your first foot. But before we get into that, let's get right into the news. The first story comes from Seattle. Judge denies city council member Kshama Sawant's appeal of recall ruling. A King County judge has rejected an attempt by Seattle city council member Kshama Sawant to prevent a recall effort against her from going forward. Sawant has appealed to an earlier decision by Superior Court Judge Jim Roberts that states that some of her recent actions crossed the threshold to initiate a recall, but Rogers on Monday rejected her appeal. In his 5-page ruling, Rogers reiterated his earlier finding that 4 complaints cited in the recall petition against Councilmember Sawant did raise to the level of malfeasance and denied Sawant's motion for the reconsideration of its entirety. The ruling means that the recall effort against Sawant shall proceed. Sawant, a socialist and vocal proponent of defunding Seattle police, will now have to fend off the effort to remove her from office, even while she continues her drive to reform City Hall. It's kind of interesting to see this happen. You see, I mean, the recall effort was proposed by people on the left. It was a proposal from people on the left that wanted to enact safer and enact a way to give people another check on their government officials, because you can literally get them out of office before your special time to do it is. Like, instead of doing something that's like I said, you can do it whenever, instead of waiting and we got to wait 4 years before we do it again. And that's good. But the thing is, the recall effort has pretty much it's now done in a way that pretty much, you can see how much the recall effort has been, co-opted. There have been, recalls against, every single government official for doing anything. Jared Polis, Kate Brown, they get, people, conservatives will, Gray Davis in California, they'll get recalled by big business people who just want to get rid of them because of something they did was slightly not cool, slightly too left. Jared Polis, the reason why they wanted to recall him was because he joined in the national popular vote thingy, where he would award Colorado's electoral votes based on who won the popular vote. That was apparently too big and too bad that they needed to recall Polis. I don't get it. Gray Davis, to credit, he at least had, a legitimate reason to be recalled, because he stunk. Republicans jumped on the notion of, recalling him because they wanted to put Arnold Schwarzenegger in there, but he still had a recall, and that was still, somewhat valid. We'll have to wait and see, and if Kshama Sawant is going or not going. But, if this ends up more like the Kate Brown situation, I think she's Oregon, not Washington, whoops. Okay, anyways, the next story comes from more lefties. AOC House Progressives warn Biden on corporate hires. The election is still 18 days away. Well, it'll be changing by the time the video comes up. But Democrats are already drawing battle lines over what a Biden administration ought to look like. Left-wing House members, including Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Katie Porter, not left, Ayanna Pressley, Rahul Grijalva, and candidate Jamal Bowman, along with 39 progressive groups, signed a letter obtained by Politico arguing that no C-suite level corporate executives, or corporate lobbyists ought to have state-confirmed positions in a Biden administration. Now, I have like a complete list of the people who signed the letter. Here are all the people that have signed it. The representatives that have signed it are Raul Grijalva, Chuy Garcia, James McGovern, Barbara Lee, Katie Porter, AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Adriana Espiliat, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Nydia Velasquez, Lloyd Doggett, and the organizations that have signed it are Action Center on Race and Economy, Alliance National Competencias, I don't know how to speak Spanish, Amazon Watch, American Economic Liberties Project, Blue America, Center for Biological Diversity Action Fund, Center for Constitutional Rights, Center for International Policy, Climate Hawks Vote, Code Pink, Common Defense, Communications Workers of America, The Debt Collective, Demand Progress, Earth Action Inc., Equality Labs, Family Farm Action, Friends of the Earth Action, Greenpeace USA, Historians for Peace and Democracy, Indivisible, In the Public Interest, Jamal Bowman, Just Foreign Policy, Justice Democrats, Oil Change US, Open Markets Institute, Our Revolution, Pax Christi USA, Peace Action, People's Action, Progressive Change Campaign Committee, Progressive Democrats of America, Public Citizen, Revolving Door Project, Social Security Works, Sunrise Movement, Tax March of Veterans for Peace, Chapter 113 Hawaii, and Win Without War. These groups are trying to push Biden on corporate run hires, because they don't want a Senate confirmed position to be a corporate bot lobbyist. They don't want a repeat of the Obama administration, pretty much. It's obviously what they're trying to say. They don't want a repeat of the Obama administration. They actually want to do big things. They want to actually push Biden, and that's the big thing. They really want to push Biden to the left. That's what they're trying to do. I guess Cenk Uygur and Bernie Sanders and all these other groups are saying, we liked Joe Biden 100%, but we will fight him on day one to try and push things to the left. Bernie's been trying to leverage people saying hey, remember, if Biden wins the election, I'm going to be on a committee. I forget what committee he was in specific. I think it was the health committee. A committee that was going to be hey, this might be interesting. Now here's the thing. If I had faith that Biden could be pushed, I would have voted for him. I didn't. I voted for Howie Hawkins. But here's the thing. Bernie, Jeff Merkley, Ed Markey, Ro Khanna, Raul Grijalva, Pramila Jayapal, Peter Welch, Barbara Lee, Mark Buchan, Jamie Raskin, Jared Huffman, Earl Blumenauer, John Yarmouth, James McGovern, James Kozlowski, Mark Takano, Mark DeSalino, Peter DeFazio, Gwen Moore, AOC, Rashida, Ilhan, Chewy, Ayanna, Joe, Andy, Corey, Jamal, Mandir, Marie, Teresa, and whoever else gets elected, you're free to prove me wrong. 100% prove me wrong. I would 100% to be proven wrong if the Biden administration is a good presidential administration. Good. Please do that. All right. I'm fine with less than cool people giving me what I want. Do I think it can be pushed? No. I'm not entirely sure. I would bet no. But it's worth a try. Come on, you can give it a try if you want. I'm not going to hurt you for trying. A for effort. Anyways, now on to a more important story. California Republican Party admits it placed misleading ballot boxes around the state. The California Republican Party has admitted responsibility for placing more than 50 deceptively labeled official drop boxes for mail-in ballots in Los Angeles, Fresno, and Orange counties, an action that the state's officials said was illegal and could lead to election fraud. The dark gray metal boxes have been popping up over the past 2 weeks near churches, gun shops, and the Republican Party offices, mostly in conservative areas of a deep blue state, affixed with the white paper label identifying them as either official ballot box drop-off or official ballot box. To the average voter, these are virtually indistinguishable from drop-off sites sanctioned by the state, which are governed by strict regulations intended to prevent the partisan manipulation of the ballots. The actions of the largely marginalized state party come at a moment when Republicans and Democrats are engaged in a bitter national struggle over voting rights, which President Trump's allies accusing Democrats in Minnesota and elsewhere of undermining the integrity of the electoral process by expanding absentee voting and other measures to increase ballot access. On Monday, the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, and Attorney General Xavier Becerra sent a cease and desist order to the state and county level of Republican parties, ordering them to remove the boxes. They also urged voters to not go there. So yeah, while Republicans are trying to do this big thing oh, Ilhan Omar is trying to rig the election in Minnesota and is trying to hurt Trump's chances in the swing state, the Republicans are over here doing the exact same thing that they're accusing Ilhan of. And that's the big thing. That's always the thing you need to focus on in a politician. Very simply put, and I mean, if you could just do this in your life, if you're accusing someone else of something, if someone's accusing you of something that you know you're not doing, they're accusing you of something that they're doing. And that's exactly what the Republican Party's done it before. I live in North Carolina. Ballots, they will do anything to ballots. And North Carolina, they got caught. And in California, they just got caught. But here's the thing. Here's the biggest thing that you should know. Remember Becerra and Padilla, they told him point blank, dude, stop doing this. This is illegal. You got caught doing a crime. You know what their response was? The Republican Party, you know what their response was? No, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it. Yeah, we're just going to keep doing it. Why? I don't know. They just want to keep doing it. They got caught red-handed, and they're still going to do it. And that's the thing about politicians. You need to understand. They'll do anything. They don't care. Republicans, they don't care about rule of law. They like rule of law when they can beat up black people, but they don't like rule of law when they have to actually listen to the law. It's fucked up, boy. It would be kind of interesting to see Trump try to use this as validation. See, this is why mail-in ballots stink. It's well, yeah, but your party did it, though. Now, these next two stories hit close to home, because one is from a country that my father calls home, or at least called home at one point, and the other one is my home state. I'm going to start with over the seas, because remember, Mexico is my forte in this scene. The INE officially approves dates for the tiebreaker survey between Delgado and Munoz Leto. Munoz Leto and Mario Delgado are going to the last seat. They're going for the last election, and things are heating up in this cycle. Munoz Leto is trying desperately to claim Delgado is corrupt and evil and blah blah blah, to try and stop him by any means necessary. Delgado is mostly focused, again, this is the biggest difference between these two. Porfirio Munoz Leto, he's always focusing on the negatives. I'm running as a AMLO critic, and I'm going to critique AMLO when I get into the top position, and blah, blah, blah. Mario Delgado, he's always been focusing on the positives. He's trying to focus on activism and, policies to try and move forward with Morena. But Porfirio Munoz Leto, he's trying to, mostly focus on the negatives. He's running a mostly negative campaign, and Delgado's focusing on a mostly positive campaign. That's the biggest difference, aside from the fact that there's a 39-year age difference between the two. I'll admit, that's probably the bigger thing that people should really take into consideration. Now, if Porfirio is better than Mario, then that'd be one thing, but he's not. Mario is better. I'm supporting Mario 100%, and, a lot of people are doing this. Remember, during, my first Morena, breakdown video, I was talking about Gibran Reyes, and he was saying he was a pretty cool candidate. Yeah, Gibran is endorsing Mario now. He's talking about, he's endorsing Mario because Mario is the better of the two, and they're trying to focus, again, mostly on, unity, uniting Morena. So, yeah, Mario Delgado is perfect for the presidency of Morena, and I think he's going to win 100%. The next story is, this actually ties into the main topic a little bit. North Carolina GOP candidate refusing to take down ugly religious and racist Facebook smears as GOP looks the other way. On Saturday, the News and Observer reported on a series of anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, and transphobic Facebook rants by Mark Robinson, an African-American gun rights activist who won the GOP nomination for Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina in a surprising upset earlier this year. Here's some of the things that he said. He called gay people devil-worshipping child molesters, and teenage activists that survived the Parkland school shooting are silly, immature media prostitutes. He said that Muslim Americans are invaders, that Democratic wins are what happens when Negroes don't read, that the transgender identity is a mass delusion calculated to turn God's creation into a sickening image of rebellion to glorify Satan, and the film Black Panther was created by an agnostic Jew and put to film by a satanic Marxist to pull the shekels out of your shariat's pockets. He claimed Michelle Obama is secretly a man and referred to Maxine Waters as old Maxi Pad Waters. You know, I actually got a conservative, ballot thingy. When you go to like an election thing and they give you like things like, here's the conservative voting guide or here's the liberal voting guide and blah, blah, blah. I actually got a conservative voting guide for like the, thing, like for my office when I went to go vote in the primary. And they gave me one for, the biggest one that they got was like Mark Robinson for lieutenant governor. He is pretty much the conservative favorite, but I'm not sure. I don't know if he's going to win the election. I actually got the first gubernatorial ad on like YouTube a little bit ago. I don't know. It was like an anti-Yvonne ad, but I mean, it says it's pretty close to the election. It's pretty obvious. I voted, I have voted for Howie Hawkins on the top of the ballot, and then I voted Democrat, down the ballots. Who cares? I vote for the most left option, pretty much. And it just so happened that in one of the instances, it wasn't a Democrat. I, hate Cal Cunningham, but who cares? I mean, he was the most left option of the ballot. If the Greens offered a candidate, I probably would have voted for him. Especially considering Cal Cunningham, many people consider him to possibly be what killed the Democrats' chance of taking the Senate in November. But even then, it doesn't even look like that's the case. So yeah, I don't know much about it, but I already knew Mark Robinson was a sucky candidate. I just didn't know he was this bad. And speaking of this bad, this ties into the main topic, but before we get into that, let's talk about the smaller candidate of the day. That candidate being Brooke Page. He is a candidate from Vermont. He was actually at one point running against Bernie in the 2018 Senate election, but they suspended him, and then, they didn't suspend him, they, just moved him to, the Secretary of State thing, because he was running for both offices for some reason. His motto is freedom and unity. Sadly, little of either remains in Vermont today. Our freedoms and liberties have seemed to be further reduced or restrained almost daily, while decisive individuals and ideologies use us to balkanize us from our fellow citizens. What we need here in Vermont is just as important as nationally is to find a pathway back to values. Okay, so his big things are freedom and unity. And I guess he's running as a moderate-ish Republican. And his ballot line is actually called the GOP, but it's different. Instead of Grand Old Party, it's called Grumpy Old Patriots. Very interesting. Okay, I'm not going to do much about him, because now I want to move on to the main topic of this video. Oh boy. This is big. This is my video about Antoons. Antoons is an interesting figure. Real name, Antoine Cervantinic. He is a YouTube animator. I might say, YouTube animator? Why are you talking about a YouTube animator? We'll get to that in a second. The thing that he was known primarily for on his YouTube channel was a series where he animated characters on their deathbed. It'll be Finn on his deathbed, or whatever cartoon character on his deathbed. while also, like, he did, like, the usual YouTube animator shtick, you know, like, oh, funny parody on one end, and then on the other end, cool, funny, original animation for a change. I do remember watching one of his videos. It was like Ed and Eddie in 2017 because it was linked to me by someone on like Facebook, and I was like, I mean, it's like, One of the biggest things, like, he's been getting some flack for tracing into those like parody videos. It's like, I mean, I don't really care. Like, I mean, I get tracing. I get why tracing is a bad thing, but here's the thing: I don't think Anton has ever explicitly stated like, hey, this Fred Flintstone design is mine. Like, tracing is bad when you're tracing someone else's work and then, like, taking credit for it. Like, if I traced one of Anton's videos and then just said, it's mine, my work, mine. Like, and it's not a parody, not a joke, not a parody of his characters or anything. Just, like, if I made a animation of his characters but claimed they were mine and my work and all this stuff, then that would be bad. But I mean, tracing in and of itself is not necessarily bad as like, ooh, evil. I mean, literally, we have a style of animation that is literally where you trace over a person dancing and then draw an animated character over it called rotoscoping. We have that thing for a reason. But again, like, if he was like tracing over someone else's work and claiming they were his, then that'd be a bad thing. But that's not what he did. He was tracing something for the sake of like making a parody, which a lot of YouTube animators have done. And some parts of the controversy that we might get into in the future, he talks about like, oh, this famous YouTube animator Meat Canyon traces too. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, and that's the thing. It's a parody. The idea of the parody, like, as Anton himself has stated in interviews that he's given, tracing it is like to get the parody just right. Though, I mean, I do get like certain aspects why that might be a bad thing, especially I get it. It's a more gray area. Like, I mean, because like a lot of animated like parodies in the past, they don't necessarily trace. Some do, some don't. But some just like draw the general design and be like, hey, this is close enough. It's like the classic parody thing where they're like, if you want to make a parody of Captain America, you make his suit green in order to get away with it. Is that stealing? Not really. No. There's fair use, and I mean, fair use is another topic we're going to get into in a bit. But, I mean, after he made a video, like he made a video in 2018, like 3 months ago, of one of his, like, original characters, Mr. Sneaks, who's a black character. When I say he's black, I mean, like, he's, like, black, like a Latin American's hair. But, like, after he made a video, after he made that video, he decided he was going to take a break from animation and then move on to do webcomics. Now, the webcomics thing is where things get worse. Because, I mean, there's no other way to put it. Anton made pretty much comics for the alt-right. Now, that's weird. How do you get to this random point for no reason? Well, it's because of two particular people that he seemed to like form a friendship with. Mr. Pumpkinface and the more famous one, Stone Toss. Now, some of you may be enlightened enough to not know who Stone Toss is. I mean, you can watch a video by Thon Slime about who Stone Toss is, but long story short, he's a Nazi who makes comics about hating everybody, really. The Jews, the blacks, the gays, circumcision. You know, the typical alt-right, like, handy book, like, oh, men's rights and blah, blah, blah. Pfft. But the thing is, Stone Toss, he's big enough to get his own video, because he's, like, big, there's theories going around that he is another literal Nazi comic man named Red Panels. But, I mean, this isn't about them, this is about Anton. Anton makes similar comics to these guys, in particular adopting the stone toss type idea for the comics. The idea being, like, you post some comics that are like, oh, these are just funny moments that happen, haha. Like, Stone Toss will make a comic about, like, you know, people on a plane being like, whoa, what's going on here? But then, like, the next comic will literally be about Jews running the world. Anton was similar. But the thing was, it was a slightly different way. You see, Anton, he kind of went, like, a lot more into the, like, alt-righty-ish, like, thing. And it was also weird, was that he didn't, like, make a separate account for these, or even tried to, like, hide it. He, like, transferred his characters to this, like, new venture, openly taking Mr. Sneaks and Mr. Fleeks, I guess. That's what the white one is, right? But anyways, like, and the comics are the typical right-wing, like, alt-right stuff. Like, and he does, like, all these weird things to try and, like say, like, oh no, actually, I'm not so bad. Like, he makes the comics that are racist, transphobic, anti-left, like, everything that is, like, left. You know, like, he compares gay people to pedophiles, which is another thing he did to a YouTuber who was asexual, and he literally was just like, hey, aren't you a pedophile? And she's like, wait, no, where would you get that idea from? Well, I didn't get that idea from anywhere. I just made an assumption because you're LGBT, and LGBT people are basically pedophiles, right? She's like, what? No. And he was like, oh, okay, silly me. When he was like he was literally peddling this. Like, I'm gonna link, like, a bunch of videos. I'm gonna, like, make a playlist of, like, a bunch of videos that are gonna be dealing with this controversy. And Anton, if you're watching this, which I know you might be, don't worry. I'm gonna be fair. I'm going to include some of your videos in there as well. I will be fair and give people the chance to hear both sides of the story. But there are some things he says that are, like, legitimately, like, he makes weird defenses of himself. Like, the video that he tried to, like, make to be, like, defending himself was, like, one thing he was, like, saying was that, like, oh, Mr. Sneaks isn't supposed to represent black people. He is a black, like, creature. He isn't supposed to represent a black man of any kind. Which makes literally no sense. Because as you self-proclaim in your video when you tried to ease things over, you stated, like, you openly had Mr. Sneaks paint himself black and then say he's a Black Lives Matter activist. In fact, whenever you bring up Black Lives Matter in any of your comics, you always have Mr. Sneaks as the representative. In fact, even though you say you have an openly African-American character, you don't have him ever be representative of anything black. Like, for example, here's a comic that's very famous. It's a comic where it has Mr. Freaks, the white character, with his two loving parents having fun playing soccer, and he's going to school learning, and then he becomes a big time person and gets a lot of money and power. Meanwhile, Mr. Sneaks, he has one parent who leaves him, who's wearing fishnets. I presume the idea is that she's supposed to be some sort of prostitute or a whore. He stays home all day as a child and jerks off. Then when he's a teenage adult type person, he smoking weed, playing video games, and then he's a Black Lives Matter activist. Wait, that's weird. Why does he have a Blue Lives Matter flag? That's one weird thing. I guess maybe that's supposed to be Anton's joke. Like, he has a BLM flag, a communist flag, a Blue Lives Matter flag, and a Antifa flag. Maybe that's the joke, I guess. I don't know. And there's another comic where you have Mr. Sneaks break into people's houses, and you've made a ton of animations where he dates a black woman, he dresses in black, quote-unquote, garb. Like, I mean, don't try to hide it, dude. Just own up to your racism, dude. Now, another big thing that he's been, like, a big thing that he's been doing is, like, anti-trans stuff. That's one of the big things that he always does. And he frequently uses a certain word that I'm not going to say because I ain't trying to get canceled no time soon. But you know what I'm talking about. Granny with a T uses that word like all the time. And he uses it so much that at one point he tried to use that as like a defense. Like, oh, no. I'm not trying to say anything offensive by it. I'm just saying it because I want to say it. To me, I use it affectionately towards my friends. What? It's like, dude, are you serious? You're serious. You're dead serious. And again, he tries to, and another thing he tries to do is he tries to hide it. He tries to, like, one of the biggest things that these alt-right comic makers like to do is they try to hide their racism under the guise of just being an edgelord. Like, they're just edgy. I'm just making edgy humor. No. But, buddy, I make edgy humor all the time. But at one point, when you keep making the same joke over and over and over again about, like, trans people being the road to pedophilia, I mean, especially considering there are times that you don't say that as a joke. Like, I mean, what do you mean? Are you saying literally every single time you say this is a joke? Then how come in private you also insinuate that pedophiles are part of the LGBTQ community? When you keep mocking trans people, and like not actually trying to like show them in a positive light, if you're just making simple jokes. Now here's something funny. He tried to show like one of the big things that he tried to do. Like, he made a video where he tried to like fix everything. It's like gonna be probably the last video I listened to, the Antoons drama playlist, where he tries to say like, oh, I try to show trans people in a positive light too sometimes. But the first comic that he shows, like, showing trans people in a positive light, is a comic where his character, Mr. Freaks, goes up to a woman. He has a loving relationship with her. Everything's hunky-dory. Everything's cool. And then he gives her a kiss, puts his hand, where her, what's supposed to be, but then, dun dun dun! That's not what's supposed to be there, what? That's the joke. The classic anime trap joke. That's supposed to be him showing trans people in a positive light. That's I mean, it's probably more positive than the ones where he accuses them of being pedophiles. Or how about the one where he makes the classic joke like, oh, trans people commit suicide all the time. Get it, they kill themselves. How about the one where he makes the joke about like, oh, kids who are trying to get the surgery. How about the one where he calls non-binary, where he makes non-binary people seem like they're not actually serious about their gender identity, where they change their mind literally just because they see ugly trans people. Again, when you make that joke all the time, and then you just so happen to say that quote-unquote joke, but don't preface that it's a joke, and in fact say in a very serious way, it's a little hard to try and figure out what your actual views are. Especially considering that he did an interview with a YouTuber by the name of Daft Pina, the interview I kept mentioning over and over again, where Daft Pina asked him point blank, where Stone Toss does similar things. He'll say, oh, these are just jokes. But then when actually pressed on his actual views, he will refuse to answer. He asked Anton point blank, like, do you believe that he actually said, like, do you condemn transphobia? Like, do you condemn something like that? Do you condemn, like, racism or transphobia? And he was, like, saying something like, he tried to weasel his way out of the answer, like, maybe, yeah, I guess. You can't hide behind it's a joke for everything. Like, again, I make edgy jokes. But if you actually ask my viewpoints, they would probably not align with those edgy jokes. I just make the jokes because they're funny. I've made jokes about Jews. I've made jokes about black people, Hispanic people, white people. I made jokes about everybody. But again, they're jokes. I have not really seen, like, Anton trying to be like, oh, they're just explicitly jokes, especially considering this is all he posts. I mean, people, like, trying to sort of compare him to, like, South Park, but here's the thing. Like, and this is the big thing, like, he never mocks the other side. Even though he continually says, like, oh no, I make fun of everybody equally and stuff. He doesn't. He pointed out, like, oh, I made fun of other groups of people. I made fun of Christians. Well, I mean, no. You made a post that pointed out, like, this versus this. And the bigger thing was the fact that you drew a masculine-looking trans woman. But yeah, how about the George Floyd one that he did? I forgot about the George Floyd one where he makes fun of, like, George Floyd by being like, oh, it was a mask that was killing him the whole time, not the police officer that was choking him. But that was a big thing. Like, he always, like, and on Twitter, I mean, he didn't distinguish. Like, if they were jokes, don't you think he would have, like, drew the line at one point? Like, if he made a comic about a trans person, and then a trans person responds to him and says, yo, bro, that's not funny, that's transphobic, would you think he would respond with, oh, no, don't worry, this is just a joke? But no, he always, like, mocked them for being trans and stuff, but being a racist comic person, that was one thing. But it came to a head during the infamous controversy regarding Puppy-chan. Puppy-chan being a sane, respected individual, I guess, got mad at one of Anton's comics. And, flat out was like, yo, bro, this is fucked up, dude. But then Anton decided that he was going to do what he did best. Do what all of the alt-right comic guys do. Retweet, cry, and bitch and moan. The audience goes and does what they will. Puppy-chan responds and is like, yo, and they like get into a bit of a tussle. At one point, Puppy-chan says, like, sorry, I'm getting mad. I'm just on my period right now. Then Anton, being the ever-bright individual he is, says, weren't you born biologically male? Because in Puppy-chan's bio, they had this, non-binary /she/they. So Anton, taking that, plus the fact that Puppy-chan had a comic that depicted a male to female transgender character, he put 2 and 2 together and got the answer of 22. Now that inquiry made people a bit uncomfortable because that thing that I just read, there's one more thing that is next to it. /17 years old. So Puppy-chan was a minor. And that was where the big controversy sort of arose, because many people were like, isn't it a bit weird to, like, go to a minor and pretty much say, like, essentially ask them what's in between their legs? That was a interesting thing that he did. He did try to defend himself by saying, like, that's not technically what I asked, which, I mean, yeah, but it's also kind of, you're technically, like, you're not supposed to ask that. You're not supposed to ask, like, just, as a person who is interacting with trans people, it's not what you're supposed to ask. Now, the thing is, these two, they had a very big, fight. Which the thing is, many people again were like, I forgot to mention, Anton's in his 30s. And again, Puppy Chan is a minor. So this was essentially a grown man fighting with a child. And the thing is, Anton, he has a way bigger audience than Puppy Chan. So it seems a bit like the power imbalance was obviously there. And the thing doesn't really too far from the tree, as Anton has frequently gotten into fights with many smaller YouTubers as well. Like I mentioned before, there was that YouTuber, Izzy's is her name, where literally just call her a pedophile for no reason. And Daft Pina, which I don't know if Daft Pina is that smaller than him. Now again, this is so far from political YouTube and into normal YouTube that you might need a context on who Daft Pina is. Daft Pina is a YouTuber in the commentary community who does he basically reviews other people's YouTube channels and gives them critiques on who they are and blah blah blah. He gives them oh, this is how you improve. But the bigger parts of his career is where he talks about big name drama oriented YouTubers. He's known for being incredibly slow with his talking. Here's some of his videos. One where he talks about a child groomer YouTuber, and then what's another big drama that he did? Oh yeah, that big name tracer guy, Fox Goodman. Is he perfect? Nah, no, he's done, there have been some videos of his that, I will say, are not the best. Where he took a YouTuber who had a mental and eating disorder and was just I think she's faking it, bro. Is he perfect? Nah. I'm not subscribed to him. I'll watch some of his videos. Just test him out. See if he's cool. But he's eh. I will say there was this one thing that I got very mad about because there's this video of his that is that he said he was gonna do in 1 week, but then he skipped it. He said at the end of one of his videos, he said there was an interesting thing that happened when I asked this YouTuber to appear on this video, but we're gonna save that for next week. And the next week he didn't even talk about that. He talked about child groomer. But yeah, he made a video about Anton, and actually got Anton to make an appearance in the video. But Anton, he didn't like the video because the video portrayed him in a bad light. Which, Anton, no offense, but there's no other way to paint you. And then he went on this big tirade where he made this huge video where he was oh, Daft Pina, art critic exposed, and tried to get him mad because here's the thing, the thing he focused on was the art critique stuff, which is again it's a stupid thing to focus on. I'm more focused on the fact that he literally makes white supremacist comics, not the fact that he traces sometimes. Who cares? Daft, he literally made his video was called Antoons, Racist Tracer, and the first thing he focused on was the tracer part. But another thing that happened was because Anton, he can't necessarily take criticism that well, and he's frequently privated and unprivated his Twitter account, which he can't do now because it's been suspended because he violated the terms of service, which makes sense because he was pretty much harassing a bunch of people. Now yeah, he has gotten some harassment too, but when you harass people, things are gonna happen. No offense. I don't harass people on the internet, so I don't get harassed. That might end pretty soon. But Daft, he had an individual who was part of Anton's Discord server reveal something interesting. You see, he and Puppy Chan at one point decided they were gonna bury the hatchet. Everything was gonna be finito. They were gonna put peace. Like, at the very least, just outwardly peace. They don't bother each other anymore. They bury the hatchet. Everything's done. But it turns out Anton was making a video game called Pill Fighter, where he has interesting individuals on a sort of weird political spectrum, where he has like the blue-pilled fighters and the red-pilled fighters. The red-pilled fighters are like Stone Toss and Mr. Pumpkinhead. And then on the other side, you have people who are like Blob Comics and the girl who made the nice guy meme, not nice guy meme, not, you know the one I'm talking about, the one that's like the guy that's like, hey, PewDiePie, you getting robbed was pretty bad. Well, it looks like we're gonna have a fun, interesting agreement. Really? Hell no. That comic, new guy, that's what it is. One of the fighters that he was going to have in the game was Puppy-chan, and one of her special moves was going to be squirting period blood out of her vagina. Yeah, burying the hatchet right there, buddy. You literally took the one thing that started this drama and then you dig it back up to use it as a joke in your video game. And he apparently also made like comments saying like, oh, he was going to like do something to her on her 18th birthday, or he was going to try like find her real name so he could prove that she's secretly not like 17 and she's actually an adult, because of the fact that harassing an of-age person is slightly more acceptable than harassing a minor. Though, of course, that refueled the fire. Now, here's the thing. Anton got mad at Daft Peanut for saying, like, oh, he's just adding fuel to the fire. Yeah, well, yeah, you should have seen that coming when you went to interview a guy who is known for doing that. Might as well have went to Killer Keemstar for this information, buddy. The commentary community literally feeds on drama, and at this point, I'm on field of fire, pretty much. But my criticisms are valid. You do make pretty offensive comics that do teeter on the fact, like, they do teeter on not being a joke anymore. At one point you have to realize you can't use the it's a joke, like, deflection, when it just so happens that you frequently, you work with other white supremacists, and you, joke, it's a joke, I'm just making a fun joke. Yeah, you can't necessarily do that when you're literally with a known white supremacist comic creator. Like, everybody knows he's a white supremacist. Like, this is no secret that Stone Toss is a white supremacist. That's not a secret. He makes comics about Jews running the world. You can't use that deflection when it just so happens your real views start to reflect the joke views. But yeah, as I stated before, his Twitter account has been deleted, so he can't really add fuel to the fire, at least directly anymore, to my knowledge, because I don't know how to get to his Discord server, and I probably wouldn't want to do that anyways. Oh no, wait, never mind. He has a new Twitter account. Now he's making fun of trans people again. Now he's doing the thing where it's like Mr. Sneaks is dead, Miss Sneaketta is there. She, her, them, ACAB, BLM, and Antifa. Autistic, non-binary, transracial, transgender, she, her, them, ACAB, BLM, trans rights, LGBTQERLKA, and you get the point. He's, again, the joke, the funny joke. People want me to join the 41%, haha, get it? The joke. So yeah, Anton's probably gonna find this video, download it, maybe try to get it taken down, but I didn't use any of his copyrighted anything, so I'm all good here. I have the perfect legal case. So yeah, there'll be a playlist for all those who want to get more interested or look into all of this. But I'm hoping that I'm the last video on Anton, because I just hope. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified if your video comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora. Join my Discord, no, not you, Anton, or check out my articles in the Independent Political Report.